More than excited because we have a homeschool pioneer with us today. I'm super excited. And she is amazing. Connie Albers is with us today. You guys, seriously, when we are all homeschooling and we're like, man, this is something new. Hey, it's not new. It's been around for a long time. And Connie Albers is an amazing, amazing veteran of homeschooling, and she's such a great advocate for homeschooling and parenting rights, and just really, really making sure that we keep it in a way, keep homeschooling free, keep homeschooling an option for all of us. And I just am so grateful for her for spending time with us today, because you guys have no idea, her legacy is huge and has such a reach, and I'm so excited to have her with us today. So you guys, this is such a treat. I'm very excited today. Thank you, Connie, for joining us today. Super great to have you.
Oh, Cami, I'm humbled. That was so sweet. Thank you very much. And I'm delighted to be with you and your listeners and viewers.
Yeah, this is really exciting, you guys. So, we're going to be talking today. We've been talking about AI for a little while. Kenyon, my son, and I have done a couple episodes earlier, and we have one more coming up next week. If you haven't listened or watched those, you definitely want to, because it's such a huge topic that we're talking about right now. Connie is actually one of the early adopters of AI, and she, from an educational standpoint, has really thought about it in a way that is something that we need to teach our kids and teach our kids how to use. But the way that she thinks about it is im- it is on a much higher educational level, because we're talking about the skills that they need in order to properly use AI. And questioning is one of those skills. And I love this because questioning is something we do all the time in education. It's something we need to teach our kids just in general for a lot of reasons that Connie's going to talk about today. But we are also needing to really learn how to refine questioning so that we can prepare our kids for success in the future, especially with this world of AI happening further and further, and just really growing in its breadth and becoming so much an integral part of our success in the future. So, if you guys want to prepare your kids for success in the future and whatever they end up doing, it really doesn't matter. It's going to be really hard to avoid AI. I mean, it is already, but it's going to be really, really hard in the coming years. So, to make sure our kids are ready, Connie's going to help share with us about this idea of questioning and question based education, which is something that I love, something that I've been teaching for a long time, really getting a lot of that thinking involved. So, Connie, thank you so much for joining us today. And I am super excited because I want everybody to know about you and your amazingness, your incredibleness, and why you're so excited about AI and making sure our kids are ready for it.
Well, I'm a mother of five. I homeschooled all the kids. They graduated, they went to college, they're all on their own, paying their bills and living life, and we love it. And they all still live like right around our home. So it's delightful. And from that, I ended up writing this book called Parenting Beyond the Rules. Raising teens with confidence and joy, because of all the work that I do, it revolves around strengthening today's families to be able to navigate the chaos, the challenges that every family faces. There's not a family that has escaped trials and struggles, because that's just common to all of us. So I wrote this, and I just have to point this out because it's kind of like our whole thing with AI, honestly, Cami, and that is when you see this, there's paintbrushes of different sizes and colors, and there's a paint swath that some is really big and bold and some is fine print. And that is the way our children are. Our children are uniquely made, designed. They see, feel, and experience the world differently. If you have more than one child, you'll know they're not alike in really any capacity, other than most of them, they'll share the same last name, or maybe they share a bedroom, but how they navigate the world is going to be different. And so that is really important, and that is likened to what AI is becoming, and that is people are tailoring it to their needs. They're using it, there's a lot of people saying, oh, people are using it like Google, where we used to say, oh, just Google it. And the truth is, it's way more powerful than just Googling something. It is a resource, Kimmy, that 71% of moms are using AI to get their parenting advice. Good, bad. I'm not saying, I'm not endorsing it. I'm not endorsing it. That's just the reality, and it's only going to increase. And so when I think about what we're talking about and how it relates to our family, um, we have to, or at least for me, we have to keep the mindset of we're parenting a human, not an AI robot, not a factory assembled product. We can't talk to our children the exact same way to each child. We have to talk to them in a way that they're going to hear it. And we have to think about that, their filtration system. Because Kimmy, as you and I talk, what I say, you're going to hear in a different way than maybe I intended because you have a filtration system, an upbringing, a past, a way that you're going to experience the world. And so it's up to me to be able to ask or say the right thing in a way that it's going to make sense to you so that I can get the response that I'm looking to get. And that's the way AI is. And that's why, as we kind of dive into this more, you'll see that relationship, even between the robot, so to speak, and how we have to keep that human connection.
This is so huge, you guys. Do you realize we're talking about not only just how to use AI, we're talking about human relation skills. We're talking about really how to be a person in this world. Because as I'm thinking about you talking about this, the idea of how people hear things is really, it's a public speaking skill, it's a conversational skill. This is something that we really need to understand in how we solve conflicts in interpersonal relationships, in asking questions to seek to understand what they're hearing. And one of the best mentors, that, or to be a good mentor, you have to really ask questions and hear, how are you hearing this, or how are you experiencing this, and dig out things. And I think that that is, mentoring is such a huge way that we help our kids own their own education, and then really become lifelong learners. So you guys, this is such an important idea. So questioning and really asking the right questions, and not only how the things we want to find out, but how we're being heard as well, is really, really important. So, what does it do to, as our kids are little, maybe, or even if they're teens, how does asking questions help them, not how does that help them learn, just in general?
Well, let's think back to when our kids were little. What did they always say? I have some grandbabies now, a couple toddlers, and everything's why. And it's, even I think it was maybe Simon Sinek. There's like 5 levels of why. You ask a question, why? And you ask another question, why? It's not till you get to the fourth or fifth why that you actually get to the answer that you're desiring. And when we think about our children, one, they learn that way, and by asking questions they get parts and pieces of, say, an onion. They peel back the layer. Oh, don't touch this, don't touch the stove. Why? You'll get burnt. Why will that hurt? Why? Well, let me see. Now some kids will be, well, let me see if you're telling me the truth or not. And of course they touch the oven and they're like, ah, and you're like, see, I told you, after you've taken some ice pack to it or something. But the point is, when we teach our children that it is okay to ask questions, that is a start. That's a 180 from what is happening in a classroom. In a classroom, it's an institutional setting. And I know maybe a lot of your listeners have their kids in a public school system, or they grew up in a public school system. And if you grew up in it, what it is today is not what it was when you were in school. That's just, things have changed. What is happening in the classroom has changed. But what they're looking for is to give you what to think, not how to think. And that's why when you and I were talking earlier about our segment, I said, well, it used to be if you had means or opportunity, you could gain a lot of knowledge. You could be part of certain clubs or tutors. You had access to information that, let's just say, an average family didn't have. So they would have an advantage of knowledge that someone that didn't have that same opportunity, it was a disadvantage for them. However, now in the world of AI and its usability, its user interface, the ease, it has leveled the playing field in many ways. Elon Musk is, this is not a political thing. It's just he started OpenAI. I mean, he was one of the two co-founders of OpenAI. He knows the power of it, and like he said, we have to be careful. But it is a tool. It's a resource. And it is a way that it does allow all of us, anybody, can gain knowledge on whatever it is that they want to learn about. They're not hindered by station in life, socioeconomic level, anything like that. They have the same opportunity. And that is important to know because we can go in and say, why does this work? Well, why does that matter? Why should I use this? Why will this change my life? I mean, we are able to keep asking these questions and get the answers to where we want to go as we like continue our conversation and how that's actually applied with using AI.
Yeah, this is such a great example, you guys, of higher level thinking. So, this is what we're talking about in terms of that, what Connie was saying before about the worldview. So, when we're thinking about our worldview and I was just talking about this with my Inspiring Lifelong Learning Academy members today. We were talking about how everything that you hear, you get information from a belief system, whatever the case, is compared to your straight line, your whatever your belief system is, your worldview. And so you develop right from wrong from that. You say, yes, that makes sense to me. No, it doesn't. No, I don't believe in that, whatever the case, from your worldview. And so having a higher level thinking where we're asking and questioning, not just that we're questioning, we never know who we are. We're questioning everything all the time, but we do that higher level critical thinking skill is so important to be able to, like Connie was saying, not to just have information is almost it is valuable, but it's only valuable now in the way that we apply it.
Yes.
So not in terms of like actual just, dictionary information or encyclopedia information for us old people that remember
I
encyclopedias.
mean, in the decimal system, you used to have to go to the library and, file through a card
Right?
file and find the reference books. That was a learned skill, believe it or not. I mean, there were a lot of
Yes.
people that didn't even know how to do that. And if you were fortunate enough to go to the library, if you understood how to do research, all of those were skills that added to your bank of knowledge that would prepare you for whatever it was you're going to do in the future. And so AI has kind of changed that because you don't have to go that direction anymore. There's a plethora of ways to gather knowledge anymore.
Absolutely. I remember when I was, oh, go
You
ahead.
had one night, and the next morning you wake up, it's like, oh wow, everything changed.
Exactly. Exactly. I remember when I was in college, one of my friends, one of my good friends, she was older and she's a librarian. That's like what she did for a profession. And she taught me how to use the library. she That was something I didn't even know how to do. But we have to learn how to use AI in the same way. So it's a learned skill, but we also have to think on a higher level. And if we want to get out to those things, I know when I'm thinking about AI, Kenyon has taught me, actually, my son has taught me a lot about the questioning and how to write prompts and the thing to get out of it what I want. And so I want to talk about that a little bit too, is that higher level questioning. So and to get out of it, because a lot of times we can ask a question, like we can ask, why is the sky blue? But that's going to give us a lot of different scenarios. It's like, okay, do you want the scientific part? Do you want like an existential view of it? Do you want a spiritual view of it? Like, all these different things. So what an emotional view, just what are we talking about? It's trying to compile what you're looking for. So how does the ability to question and develop questions, and that why you were talking about, how does that help us use AI better?
Okay, so think of it as a tutor, not a Google search. Like, how do I how do I cook chili? It's that would be a rudimentary use of it. It's certainly used by, I mean, that's what a lot of moms are using it for. How to cook, how to buy groceries, how to make a budget, how to, be more organized, more efficient. That's all fine and good. But on the higher level, you have to be thinking about, let's say you're doing algebra, you've got high schoolers. And well, let's start with toddlers. You can go into AI. You used to have to know someone, or a preschool teacher or an elementary school teacher, or you yourself had that background and you had the ability to go get worksheets and, what is my child supposed to learn at what grade, the scope and sequence. So now you can typically go and say, I need to work on phonics, or I need to work on some fun craft ideas to do with my 2-year-old boy, my 4-year-old little girl who, and then you just describe, temperament characteristics about that child. Is very fascinated by building, or is very artistic. You mentioned that about the art and the creative part of things. So you ask, and it'll give you a list of ideas that you would normally have to go spend a great deal of time researching, and you'll get it in minutes. Same for like your middle schooler who's trying to figure out ratios, and maybe you forgot ratios yourself because that was a long time ago and you're like, I don't even remember ratios. You can put those problems in and you can have your AI GPT explain the process, and maybe you can't explain it. You don't have to hire the tutor. You can have them explain that. And of course, you want to look that over. You don't want to give your kids unfettered access to AI. They absolutely will find trouble, I promise, because they're inquisitive, they're curious, and they're also very naive. And we want to be mindful of that. When it comes to like teenage years, maybe you forgot physics and you don't understand geometry proofs, and you don't even want to learn about them. You just don't care. You just know they need it because they're showing those scientific bends, engineering tendencies that's going to help them. That's where this ability to say, all right, in your GPT, whatever AI you're using, whether it's Open AI or Claude or any of the others, and you just go in there and say, and you want to spend some time getting it to know who you are. This is important. And this is where it can freak people out because they think you're talking to a robot. And you are. You're not talking to a human. You always have to remember that. But you also want them to know a little bit about you. Like, why are you an academic? You kind of mentioned the higher level. Are you an academic? Are you the mom? Or, you don't have to give it specifics, and never give very specific information because it is data. It is being collected, and we need to remember that. But those types of situations where it can be a tool and a resource, it's like, if you have a garage and you have a big tools chest, you have a variety of tools. Maybe you have a saw and you have a electric drill, or you have a jigsaw, or you have all these things. You don't use them all the time, but you want to know, because it is a tool, you want to know how to use it skillfully. And that's where we as parents, even though our kids can really pick it up faster than us, I, I'm probably the anomaly. My kids are now all adults, and I know way more about AI than my kids. They're just now, a couple of them are using it. The others are like, no, I'm not going to use it. So there's another example. If your children aren't using it, people will say they'll be left out forever. That's not really true. But you do want to have that conversation, which you and your son are doing beautifully, where he's teaching you and you're seeing where his bend is, what piques his curiosity, what ignites him, what does he get excited about. And a couple of things are happening, Cami. One, your relationship is being forged in a deeper level. And it sounds strange that you're doing it over a computer, but that is our reality. And especially with a teenage son that is interested in this. So you're building a relationship. You're learning more about your son. He's learning more about you. You're having conversations. Maybe it's not about a video game or their recent camping trip, but it is something that is shared information that is making both of you better and more knowledgeable. So I hope I answered your question. I know that was really packed type of question, but I know that this is changing so rapidly. I mean, a few years ago when I was first kind of getting into AI, it's not new. It's been around for 20 years. But Open AI is really what the game changer was, because it made it available for everyone. But Kimmy, what I find is that most people freak out when something's new because they're concerned how it's going to adversely impact their families, like the video games and what ended up happening in all the chat rooms, and kids were getting groomed, or they were getting swapping information or pictures that they shouldn't have. That bad actors exist everywhere. And they're going to exist in the digital world. They do exist in the digital world, but you're able to help them be and create a positive social footprint.
Absolutely. There's so much in that, you guys. So you really thinking about having, and it is fun the way that we're doing with my son. He's so proud every time every time I'm getting on ChatGPT. He always walks by and he's look, "Oh, you're on ChatGPT. What are you doing? What are you looking up? What are you doing?" Or I said, "Oh, it messed up. I didn't it's not doing it right how I want it or something." And it's telling me to refresh it. And he's like, "Okay, let me show you. Let me show you, and so let me show you an option, or okay, I'll do it." He used to just look stuff up for me. And then I started using it a little bit more, and he's like, "Okay." He says, "This is how you write it." And I even ask him, like, "How do I word this? I want to write it in this way. I want this to come out. How would I say that?" And then so he gives me a little gist, and then I'm thinking about it. So it is a fun conversation to have, and he's so proud. Even my husband, he asked some really silly little question about to ChatGPT the other day, and he was so proud. He was just like, "I'm so proud of you, Daddy. You used
You know,
ChatGPT."
just hearing you say that makes me so happy because you spent all these years teaching them how to walk and crawl and eat and have their manners and potty training and all the things. And now he's reversing that. He's showing mom something, and he can be proud of the fact that, wow, I have something to offer. Our kids, especially, I know that that's what you're focused on, but our kids in the homeschool space and any space, they want to be seen and heard, and they want to be felt like they're needed and useful. And this is an area for them, and we want to be careful that they don't. They're not disrespectful over it, and we get
Yeah.
treated like we're old people because you don't know how to charge your phone or something. But that I love that you did that, and the fact that I heard you say you're asking your son, how do I phrase this? That goes to the whole thing about knowledge base versus question base. Cami, when you sit down and when you're teaching your children how to use it properly, if you do, that I have an end game. There's a goal at the end of this. I'm not just talking randomly to some computer because I'm bored and don't have anybody else to talk to. I'm engaging with this platform that has a plethora, endless information. I mean, they're pulling from anything that is ever published is there, and they have access to it. And so you're sitting there going, I really want to know how this works, or I really want to know how to be able to get people to understand what I'm trying to say. Help me craft this in a way that I get that information. That's the whole, it takes knowledge of what you're wanting and what the goal is going to be, but you're trying to thread the needle now. You're trying to say, okay, if I say it this way, I'm going to get this answer. If I say it that way, I'm going to get this answer, and it'll probably take me in the wrong direction. And so you're sitting there saying, all right, that's the goal and that's the purpose of AI is what is it that we're wanting from it, and then figuring it out of the prompts. Now the prompts, like you said, are so important. You've covered that with your son, but I just wanted to commend you. I want you to see that's an important part, especially with a 16-year-old son who's really moving in a way away from the relational connection of I need mommy. He doesn't need mommy, but he does need mom. And so you've kind of found a way to bridge that gap, that's useful to both of you. And so I wanted to point that out as we also address, and I know our time is coming to an end, but I do want to just focus on the fact that when you're stepping into this, know that uh, you can't rely on it solely. That it's pulling from a plethora of sites that you may or may not agree with. It may not be what your family values are. It may not be what you personally believe. So you do have to, that's where the prompts come in. And that's where it knowing a little bit about who you are and what you're looking for helps it to pull from the proper resources. And the other thing that we want to teach our children is just because it says it doesn't mean it's so. And that goes back to check the sources. It will pull, it's gotten better, I will say, just in the last 4 months. It's gotten extremely good at citing proper sources and not just pulling random stuff. Never take what is initially given. That's your first why, so to speak. That's your first ask. Make sure you keep asking and refining it and using keywords as you've probably covered or will cover, because that'll make all the difference in the outcome. And let's be real, the goal is to make productivity a little quicker. It's not to make us dumber. It can if we're lazy. It's not to cheat, because that's not going to help us at all. Eventually, people will find out, oh, you really aren't a doctor. You just play one on the online. That doesn't work. So we want to teach our children, above all, Cami, when it involves AI, that it's about integrity, and that is a matter of the heart. So it'll reveal itself what's stirring in the kid's heart. We want to keep reminding him, this is a tool, this is a resource. It can help you brainstorm ideas if you're stuck. It can help you edit. It can help you tweak. But nothing is going to replace your voice, your perspective, and the impact that you're supposed to make and contribute to our society.
Oh, so 100%. Everything that, and thank you, by the way. I definitely do find he's so cute with all his, even this morning he was asking, what are we going to talk about for the next session, the next episode? And I was like, next week, buddy, let's talk about that next week. But he's already planning and researching and doing things. But it's so cute. But definitely asking the questions in a way that goes deeper. As I use AI more, and especially the text-based models, I'm watching it go. It does what you tell it to do. It does what you tell it to do. And it's not always correct. So asking, and we had that with my son. So initially he was only, you know how we Google everything. So for my generation, we Google everything.
Yeah.
So
I mean, from the stage, I would always say, what do? We Google it.
yeah, we Google it. Just Google it. Yeah, just Google it. That's where that phrase came from, right? And now it's Ask Chat, right? So
Yeah.
Ask AI, Ask Chat. And so it's my son started to, he was coding, and he actually learned how to code from AI.
Right.
And he was starting to code and using it for coding, and then he realized and I would ask him, the only thing I did was say, this is amazing. Where is it all coming from? Did you write all that yourself? I was genuinely curious, because I mean, he could have. And I said, "Did you write all that yourself?" And he says, "Well, some of it I wrote. Some of it I got from ChatGPT, and then I modified it based on what I needed it to do, or it had bugs, and then I asked ChatGPT to figure out the bugs for me." And as he was going forth, he realized he wanted to know more on how to do it himself. And he said, I don't want to rely on ChatGPT to do to do it for me. I want to learn. And so he's doing more with learning how to do it himself, and then asking it to debug it for him when he's, where this, it's not doing this, what's wrong with the code. And we found that also in his research. He would just go ask chat, and he still kind of does that, but he understands now that, okay, we go ask chat if we want to know something, but what are the other resources? What are some other things? And that was kind of a hurdle for us to get through in the beginning. So that was like, well, chat doesn't always have the best information, or maybe, who knows? Let's just look and see. And sometimes he would look and see that, oh, that is actually, yeah, that program that I want to download, that's actually not as great. It doesn't have as great reviews. It's just something interesting like that. So I love this conversation about that, and the questioning is so important, that he learns to question and question better, and then say, "Oh, but that's not the only source. That's okay. That sounds good. Well, maybe what about this? Okay, now that we know that, can we go deeper, and can we refine it?"
It's kind of like a lawyer in some ways, because a lawyer constantly has to think of all the
Yes.
different perspectives, right? So when you
Yes.
start to get down a rabbit hole and it's taking you in a place, it's like, no, this isn't actually where I want to go. And you sit there and you'll say, give me, a list of 5 different alternative outcomes, or give me some perspectives from how someone may interpret this. this piece of work that I've written, how would it be interpreted by a listener in the academic field, or something like that. But when you learn to ask these questions, again, you're saying, where is this going to be? Where is this going to go? What is the use for it? And I know a lot of, because I speak everywhere, and I have the podcast. What I hear often is young 20 somethings, 30 somethings, they're in the art entertainment industry. They'll say, okay, I need to brainstorm some ideas for this type of commercial or this type of documentary. These are the parameters that I really would like to have communicated. This is the emotion I want to evoke. This is the scenery I'd like to see happen. These are the kind of characters I'd like the protagonist to be like this, and the antagonist to be like this, and I want this tension and this arc, and I mean all of those things that your children learn through literature, and you reading aloud to them and studying literature. They're now taking that and they're putting it in a different way, and you're saying, give me a vision board, give me a list of ideas, of possibilities. Because Cami, what we have to realize is our children are born creative, adventurers, innovators, and risk takers and explorers. So those five elements are our children. And what happens over the course of learning and over the course of growing up is they live in a world of what if and what's possible. Anything's possible. What if I try this? AKA, what if I touch the stove? What if I, go ride my bike and I try to pop a wheelie? What will happen? Could not have a good outcome. But that's the world we live in. What happens over time, Cami, and this will happen with us, and this is why AI can somewhat be it's a game changer. Over the course of a child's life, they get narrowed down. Oh, that's not possible. Oh, that's not possible. Oh, you can't do it. No, that's not how we do it. We always do it like this. So we go from an expansion to a reduction. AI is
Yes.
an expansion. So it is the world of possibilities. And what we want to do is try to help our children identify where they could be hurt or harmed, or how they could be hurt and harmed, because they're going to dabble in it. We just want them to know they need to have some guardrails. They need to have some filtration. They need to know mom and dad are there, just like your son's walking by you going, oh, mom's on chat today. Um, they need to know that you're doing the same thing, and that it's for their good and not for you. It's not about control. I'm not trying to keep you from something that is the most wonderful thing ever. I'm also not trying to push it on you as well. This is a relationship and a dynamic, and I want to make sure that you're equipped with the right knowledge, knowing how to ask the right questions, knowing when to back up and say, yeah, this is going in a place I don't need to go in, or this is not the information that I need. Let's back up. Let's start over. We're gonna refresh. We're gonna go this approach. And so I think those are important caveats to any type of use with a digital. It isn't going away as much as we would like it to believe. Some children are naturally going to gravitate to it. They're fascinated, inquiring minds. Other children, they're not going to care less. It's like they weren't into gaming. They weren't into texting. There's going to be a lot of people, and it's not just going to be older people, it's going to be younger people as well. They're not going to dive into it and explore it very much, but it isn't going away, just like social media isn't going away. Um, when cars were invented, it put the horse and buggy out of business, and things are changing. They're just changing at a rapid speed, and so it would be well and wise for a parent to do what you're doing, Cami, to watch your other podcasts with you and your son, watch the engagement between you two, watch how you're asking questions, how he's talking you through it, and use it as an opportunity to grow together and learn together.
Absolutely. There's so much to learn, and it is only going to get faster and faster and more and more. So, definitely getting our head around it and preparing our kids for a world like that, which is huge, because it's going to be the people that know how to leverage themselves in that way, and versus the people that don't. So, it's going to be where your kid's success lies. So, I love that, and thank you, Connie, so much for sharing with us today. It's not often that I have a guest who just can really go in so many different directions, but still be able to talk at such a high level and practical level with people. I really appreciate that about you. And I would love to share you with everyone in how they can connect with you, because I know you have an amazing book called Parenting Beyond the Rules. It's listed below her name right there. And then also, you have a podcast and you're sharing with us a freebie. So, can you share with us a little bit about how people can connect with you and how they can hear more?
Sure. ConnieAlbers.com is my website, so you can find everything over there, as well as social media. I know you'll have those sites. The podcast airs weekly. It's equipped to be with Connie Albers. We talk about parenting, education, talk all kinds of topics that involve strengthening families and the struggles that we moms go through in living life and balancing it all. And the prayer journal is, you can get this for free. It's a 30-day days of prayer. And you'll have a link for that. And so it's free. It's just to kind of help you journal where you are, maybe what your fears are, what your concerns are, what your hopes and dreams and desires are. When we write something down, it kind of writes it into our brain and our heart as well. And so I love to give that to parents, because it's kind of focused and guiding you on that 30 days. And because it's digital, you can print it out and go back through it as your lives change, because one day to the next, things can change. And certainly, 1 month to another month is so much different in our lives. So that's where you can find me. I'd love to have you tune in and check it out. And Cami, thank you for having me on your show. It's been an honor.
Absolutely. So the honor is mine for sure. And all those links are in the show notes. Anywhere where you're seeing or listening to this, you'll be able to find all those links and to connect with Connie. So I recommend that you do so and just check out her podcast for sure. She is absolutely a treasure to the homeschool community. So I really appreciate all your efforts and your continued advocacy and your energy that you're pouring towards the rest of us who are still in the mix of everything. So I really appreciate you, and I definitely want to honor your service into homeschooling and parenting.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today, you guys. And next week we'll be back with Kenyon for the third installment of our AI series, and it'll be the last one. So be sure to tune in. Talk to you guys soon. Bye bye.